and find that this opportunity to come together one more time to discuss these issues has been really quite valuable. So let me just say thank you one more time, and I say give everybody a round of applause for the full day. And it's also quite remarkable that we got ourselves back on schedule, and you know, but really we needed to take the time. I was talking to a few people earlier, and it's just we needed to take the time to share the information. And the depth and the wealth of information as it relates to the issues connected to ethnic and racial communities, underserved communities, the mobile and mobility populations that we're dealing with in the Bay. I mean, it just takes some time, you know, and it does involve storytelling, and it does involve presenting information differently. And so it was also wonderful to have the openness and the flexibility for us to be able to tell our story the way we were able to do it today. So again, thank you. You know, I wrote down some notes and from sort of what I heard today. And again, I want to thank the Planning Committee because we talked about the importance of considering a regional response. And the information that we presented today, that we learned today, absolutely reinforces the fact that, at least in this Bay Area, we need to really reconsider how we're responding to the HIV epidemic. We also have to reconsider who our collaborative partners are. We have discussed everybody who lives in our communities and the institutions that touch their lives. Now, the only group I would say that we didn't spend time talking to is our educational system and our systems that are really connected to spiritual and faith communities beyond our Native American presentation. And so those are two little sort of outliers that I would say. But in between those two, we really have invited everybody into this room. And going back to what Carolyn said, this has been a great gathering of all the other systems that we need to confront as we're talking about this Bay Area regional response. So I came up with sort of an outline of some things that I heard that we are committing to here today. But the first thing I want us to do is really say to ourselves, it's time to do it differently and move from our siloed approach and our isolated approach to an East and West Bay approach to a cross-the-bridge approach. Now, can we agree to that? Can this group of people agree to that? Did we hear that today? Now, if we agree to that, and you heard some of the panelists talk about this, we're going to have to commit to across-the-bridge collaboration. We're going to have to commit ourselves, because we're the ones that are going to do it, and we're going to get all our colleagues to do it with us. But we're going to have to commit ourselves to participating. You know, when we said we wanted this meeting and we wanted to do it differently, this involves doing it differently. We are going to have to step up and participate in these meetings. And you heard Tracy and Phoenix talk about there have been some meetings, and we've had a few, and there was a point in which there were some other people involved and not here anymore, where Sarah Keller is here, who is our new regional resource coordinator who replaced Adrienne McCall. So when Tracy commented, well, they used to bring us together. Sarah works in the federal regional office and is responsible for helping to bring all these resources together and convene us for these types of conversations. And so I want everybody to see Sarah, know who she is. She comes to our Fast Track East Bay meetings and participates in conversations in San Francisco and the whole Region 9. But also, let me just tell you, she used to live in New York City and was around all of what New York City has been doing around getting to zero. So she's not just another federal employee. She's somebody who also knows what we're trying to work on. So the first thing that we're going to agree to is we're going to commit to this cross-the-bridge collaboration. And that's going to require us to commit some time. And on this notion of commit some time, I want us to think about, do we have 7-8 hours a month, all of us in the room, that we could say, between now and 2020, 7 to 8 hours a month? Okay, amen right there. Okay? No. Okay, we got two. We have two. But I'm raising that because you heard this morning, oh, we have a meeting, we call a meeting, well, we had 1 or 2 meetings, oh, well, I couldn't make that meeting, and then slowly but surely, we don't meet anymore. So if we're going to do things differently, we've just had a wonderful day of really active information. We're going to have to jump in there. And we have to figure out we have some time to do that. And I'm just going to ask this group to take the next 30, 45 days and decide whether or not we have the time to really take on what's going to be required to reinvent our HIV response. Now, I talked to Veronica from the forum on the way out, and I said, Veronica, we're going to come to you and Paul. Margarita, you're off the hook on this one. We're going to come to Veronica and Paul, and we're going to say, okay, you guys are going to have to play the heavy with the feds for us, okay? Because we're talking about doing it differently here. And there are lots of rules. And there are lots of ways that the feds think we should be doing HIV work. And we're going to have to take them a different message. We need to do it very differently here if we're going to get anywhere near zero. So we have some work to do, and we have to commit. So if we say we're going to do the 7, 8, 9 hours that it's going to take, a month, just a month. It's not every day. And some months you might not have to get together, but some other months you might have to do 2 or 3 meetings. And I don't know any other way to do it. I used to say meetings were not work. Meetings are very much work now. That's how we do our work. Third thing, we have to look at, and this is a different flavor on the research, right? And there were some questions up here where there were some gaps, and the questions were, what's going on in the gaps? You heard Sophie say, what's happening here that there's something not connecting? So now we're going to come to Dr. Lightfoot. I'm right here. The third action is to try to figure out and to research the impediments to successful program outcome. What are they really? And what are the ones that we can do something about now? And we need to take the time to find those things out. Now, we had some program models up here that people have started to do, the warm handoffs, and to try to address some of the gaps. But it's more than that. And we have a lot going on in implementation science. But I'm going to say we have to do some impediment research. What is it that's blocking this? And then we got to figure it out and do it, change it. Is it malleable? Or is it, the immovable force and the tsunami? I don't know what it is. But we do have to look at that if we're going to get past where we are today. So I'm going to give that to you, Margarita, that research piece about impediments. Just a little task. But then the other piece that goes with that is what's really preventing us from sharing the resources we have. What's the real deal? Is it really about residency? Is it really about how the funding is being delivered? Or are there different approaches, different styles? Are there different assumptions about what the program mix should be? I don't know the answers. But if we're going to build this cross-collaboration, we're going to have to look at those things. And, I'm going to just sort of throw out, there's quite a few researchers left in the room, so Marguerite's not going to have to do this by herself. And then we've got, CHIRP, our California HIV research program that looks at us and what we do here. Well, maybe we may have to go to CHIRP and say, we want to reinvent the HIV approach. Let's put some of our research dollars into a new look. What could that look like? Because we're going to need some flexible funding to make some of these changes. It's going to take us a little while for the feds to kind of look the other way, if they look the other way at all. So that's one of the challenges I think that we have as I sort of listen to what we're talking about today. And then it was very nice that we had our state players here, we had our county players here, we had our federal players here, and they were sharing information about opportunities. We need to sit in the room with all those players because they really are our funders, right? They are the ones that have the program restrictions that have been put together. We get our money from the county, we get our money from the city, we get our money from the federal government, we get our money from people who put some rules together and then tell us how we can use those dollars and whether we can blend them or not. So we really need to get that group in the room and have a very serious conversation about today's HIV response, not the one that we've been funding and the ones that we've been operating, but today. And, you know, Dr. Lou's, Al's slide that showed that mobility, that slide alone speaks to we need to do it differently. People are going everywhere, and they're coming from everywhere, and they're going back and forth. And then the conversations about the high mobile population, which is not mobile at all, which are homeless people that are living out of doors. And what's going on in the communities that are out of doors, and as people transit through and around these outdoor communities, what's happening there? We are seeing mobility happen here that's about a new way of living. We've got to get our public health response back to taking a look there and stopping and figuring it out. So that's a whole nother arena, and it's like, well, let's get our funders in the room. They see it. It's not new. We just have to be the community that sits down with them and says, we want to do this differently now. What does that look like? And you know, Laura, the work that they're doing on the safe injection rooms, that's like work, that's meetings, that's talking, that's standing and presenting data and information and going after it. And it's not going to happen the first time, and it's not going to happen the second time, but you know what? It's happening. And people would say that would never happen. And so we have to use these efforts to come together and decide that we're going to change the way we do the game. And that's us. State did not come and say, you know, we got to create these safe injection sites. Can you do it with us? That's not how this is happening. We are the ones that are making the requests. And so what I heard today is cross-Bay collaboration. We're close to sitting down and having some very serious conversations with some people, right? Yeah? Okay. And then the final thing is we have to figure out how to distribute the information from this meeting that underscores the need to change the model of services in the Bay Area. We heard it, we learned it, we lived through it. Now we have that feeling that we have to do it. We have to be able to convey that to probably 100 times more people than are sitting in this room. And I was talking to Lauren, I said, you know, we need these people that can hear and think and then graphically put things together. We need folks who can take all this information and data and put the economics with it. We need folks who can look at legislation and look at laws. We've got our lawyers here. We're very happy that we got our partners with our lawyers here, who can sort of say where there's wiggle room. But we need to be able to capture what we have talked about here and be able to sell it to a whole bunch of other people. And once we do that, we will change the trajectory of the HIV epidemic, not only in this region, not only in this state, but in the country. Because we are not the only ones grappling with where we are at this epidemic and its response, and how what we're doing now is not quite getting at where we need to go. So, we have a big project. Are we ready? 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 I see all these heads nodding. So what that means, and they're not nodding out yet, so that's good, is that we are going to agree. We're going to agree, this community is going to agree that we are going to do it differently, work together collectively to build the collaboration to do it differently in the Bay Area. We're going to lead the way. So that by 2020, when that 20,000 group of people come here, they'll be coming into an environment that is a present-day epidemic response. Now, if we can pull that off, that will be a revolution. I say let's go for it. We got any candidates? Got any people who want to join? Are we ready? Ready? I got 6, 7, 10. Okay. Thanks. Now, questions, responses, reactions? I think we're at the end of our day. Yeah? Yeah? We're good? Okay? We're good. Thanks.
Thank you, Marsha, for that call to action. I feel good because I feel like I got my 7 to 8 hours for March already in after today. I also feel good because now I know that I get to see many of you for 7 to 8 hours a month ongoing, because I think this really will take a commitment in order for us to move this needle. And the fact that you all are here even today, at the end of this day, makes me optimistic to know that that's going to happen. So again, thank you for your attention. Thank you to our speakers who are just amazing. I have so much going on in my head, and I'm sure you all do the same. Have a wonderful weekend, and onward.